If you ever met a Neanderthal, you would not think dumb caveman. You'd think you had wandered into the most terrifying gym on Earth. Because, pound for pound, these were some of the toughest humans who ever lived. Stronger than you, denser bones than you, a bigger brain than you. And they survived ice ages that would kill a modern human in a weekend. Meet Homo neanderthalensis, our closest extinct relative, and one of the most astonishing creatures in the entire human story. This is not the caveman you were taught about in school. For 100 years, we pictured them as slow, stupid, hunched brutes. Knuckle-dragging, grunting, too dim to even survive. Almost none of that is true. The whole myth started with one badly chosen skeleton. The first famous specimen was an old man, riddled with arthritis. Scientists mistook his bent, aching posture for how all of them stood. In reality, Neanderthals stood straight and tall and were anything but stupid. So let's talk about how their bodies were actually built. Start with raw strength. Neanderthals were far more heavily muscled than we are. Their arm and hand bones show attachment points for enormous power. A Neanderthal could probably overpower almost any human alive today. Their whole frame was shorter, wider, and unbelievably robust. Then there are the bones themselves. Neanderthal bones were thicker and denser than ours, built to take punishment that would shatter a modern skeleton. They had a barrel-shaped chest and short, powerful limbs. A body designed to generate brute force in close combat. Now for the part that really surprises people. Neanderthals had brains as big as ours and, on average, even bigger. Larger cranial capacity than the typical modern human. But hold on, bigger does not simply mean smarter. Their brains were just wired differently, built for different things. To their eyes. Neanderthals had bigger eyes, set in larger sockets than ours, and a much larger visual cortex to process what they saw. Perfect for the dim, gloomy light of the far northern winters. But scientists suspect there may have been a trade-off. More brain devoted to seeing might have left less for big social networks. Their entire body was engineered for brutal cold. That famous big nose warmed and moistened freezing air before it hit the lungs. Short arms and legs locked in precious body heat. A compact, stocky build is exactly what you want in an ice age. And here's a detail that genuinely stuns people. Some Neanderthals had pale skin and bright red hair. We know because we found the gene for it, right in their DNA. A cousin of the very same gene that gives people red hair today. But their bodies weren't only built to survive the cold. They were built to hunt. Neanderthals were apex predators, right at the top of the food chain. Chemistry locked in their bones reveals a diet absolutely drowning in meat. So meat-heavy, it ranks them right beside wolves and lions. And they weren't chasing rabbits, they hunted monsters. Woolly mammoths, woolly rhinos, giant bison, and wild horses. And they did it up close, with heavy wooden thrusting spears. No bows, no safe distance, just muscle, nerve, and sharpened wood. Picture walking straight up to a mammoth and stabbing it by hand. And the injuries tell the whole story. Neanderthal skeletons are covered in healed fractures. The exact injury pattern doctors see in modern rodeo riders. They were wrestling giant beasts by hand and living to do it again. So they were tough, but were they actually smart? This is where the caveman myth completely collapses. Neanderthals crafted sophisticated stone tools. They tamed and controlled fire. They cooked their food over the flames. They even invented glue. They cooked birch bark into tar, one of the oldest known adhesives. That takes planning, patience, and real chemistry. They stitched clothing to beat back the cold. They made jewelry from shells and eagle talons. They ground up pigments, red and black, maybe to decorate their bodies. Some ancient cave markings may even be Neanderthal art. They buried their dead, laying bodies carefully, deliberately, into the earth. And maybe the most human thing of all, they cared for their injured and their elderly. We found skeletons of people who survived crippling injuries. A crushed arm, blindness, wounds no one could survive alone. Someone fed them, sheltered them, and kept them alive for years. And could they actually talk? Almost certainly, yes. They had the same hyoid bone in the throat that lets us speak, and their own version of FOXP2, a gene tied to language. Neanderthals very likely had voices and languages all their own. Now here's the twist that changes absolutely everything. Because Neanderthals never truly went extinct. When modern humans spread out of Africa, the two of them met. And they had children together. So if your roots lie outside Africa, you are part Neanderthal. Most non-African people carry around 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA, and in some populations, up to roughly 4%. And that ancient DNA still shapes us today. It tunes our immune systems, our skin, and our hair. It even nudges our risk for certain diseases. They aren't just distant cousins, they are literally part of us. So if they were this strong, this clever, this adaptable, why did they vanish around 40,000 years ago? And the honest answer is we still don't fully know. A wildly unstable climate may have hammered them. Modern humans arrived competing for the very same food and land. Their populations were always small and thinly scattered, and so much interbreeding means they were partly absorbed into us. Maybe they didn't so much die out as blend in. The dumb caveman never existed. The real Neanderthal was a brilliant, powerful, cold-forged survivor. A different kind of human, astonishing in almost every single way. And a piece of them is still walking around today inside you. If you love history that's true, strange, and told to you straight, subscribe. We've got a whole world of it. See you in the next one.